Hi, this is Jonathan Rosenhead, a Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post for Purim is titled Identifying the Emotion. In the Megillah, we read the famous pasuk of Layehudim ha'isa'ira v'simcha v'sasam v'yikar. And the Gemara explains that Ira is relating to Torah, and Simcha refers to Yom Tov, and Sasan refers to Bris Milah, and Yakar is relating to Tefillin. So the obvious question that we can ask is, why does the pasuk use this wording and doesn't just explicitly say that it's talking about Torah, that it's talking about Yom Tov and Bris Milah and Tefillin? So the Sfas Emes explains that really these words that the pasuk is using is functioning as a synonym, that really it's one of the same thing. And therefore Torah was actually experienced as Ora, and Simcha and Yom Tov was experienced as Simcha, and Bris Milah was experienced as Sasan, and Tefillin was experienced as Yakar, which meant that Torah is not just an academic study, a book that you open with a set of rules, but it's experienced as Ora. And so too, Yom Tov, the Chagim, is not just a date in the calendar, but it's experienced as Simcha. And Bris Milah is not just a physical procedure, something that confirms a Jewish identity, but rather it's experienced as Sasan. And Tefillin is not just a ritualistic act as part of the prayer, as part of davening, but it is experienced as Yakar. So this is telling us, what the Sfas Emes is telling us, that the Bnei Yisrael were celebrating, that they were able to identify the emotion, they were able to connect to these events and activities on an emotional level. And when a person is experiencing mental illness, it could be anxiety, depression, or trauma, they can experience emotional cutoff, which means that it can be difficult for them to identify with their emotions, to identify what they are experiencing on an emotional level. So when they're explaining and detailing the struggles and the difficulties that they have in their life, they're able to explain this on a descriptive level. But it can be difficult for them to identify the emotions that are involved in this description. So what a therapist will do, and through the therapeutic process, they'll try to encourage the client to go beyond just the descriptive level, to delve a little bit deeper, to be able to try to identify the corresponding emotion. Because for every experience, there is some emotion, there is a corresponding emotion, there is emotion attached to the event, to the experience. And the therapeutic process and the healing process comes when a person is able to identify this emotion, to be able to connect with their emotions again, and to process these emotions. And what's interesting is that the Gemara explains and discusses why Ora, Simcha, Sasim, V'yikar, it relates specifically to these things of Torah, to Yom Tov, and to Bris Milah, and to Tefillin. And the Gemara and Rashi explains that these things is what Haman had made a gezerah on, that the Bnei Yisrael were not allowed to practice or celebrate these things. And therefore, when they are celebrating afterwards, like Yehudim ha'isa'ira Simcha v'sasam v'yikar, they are celebrating life going back to normal. They are celebrating being able to reintroduce these things into their life, these events and these experiences and these acts were able to go back. They were able, basically, their life was able to go back to normal, and that's what they were celebrating. That life had meaning to it, life had enjoyment again, and they were able to celebrate this. And when a person is experiencing mental illness, it can feel as if they have a decree upon them, that life suddenly seems dark and devoid of meaning, and that the events and the activities of their life it's just monotonous. One day goes by, and another day goes by, and there's no joy. There's no joy and there's no light in their life. And through the therapeutic process and through the healing process, light comes back into their life. Happiness and joy comes back into their life. And they're suddenly able to realize that all these things in their life were not just monotonous, and they weren't just acting on autopilot. Suddenly life has meaning again. Life has light and joy. And they're able to celebrate their life again. Life going back to normal. And realizing that these things that they have in their life gives them meaning and gives them joy. So when we celebrate Purim, we know that Purim is a happy time, and it's full of simcha. But to be able to experience it fully and to be able to celebrate Purim properly, we should try to stop and try to identify the emotion. Try to identify what we are actually experiencing at the time when we are celebrating with our friends and with our family. Try to stop and truly identify the emotion, and then it really will be a Purim Sameach. Keep well, and I wish you Purim Sameach.